Hey, how's it going, everyone? Hope you're all doing well out there, and we are back again with another episode of Flix Friyay. This week, we're going to be talking about the movie Crawl. Now, before we hop into it, do me a favor, smack that like button, hit subscribe, ding the notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos are put up. And without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to kick this episode off with some of the pros of this movie. Now, probably the biggest pro, and what I would argue is the biggest pro, is going to be the gator kills themselves. They're really great. They're really gruesome. If you just come into this wanting to see some great gator kills, it's got you covered, to be honest. Now, the next best thing is probably actually the song that plays. The first one during the end credits, right as the movie wraps up. It is so great. It's so self-aware of itself that this is a B flick. It's not a great flick by any means. It's a B flick. It's a B movie. And if you just go into this knowing that, and then you hear this song at the end, it's very self-aware of that, and it's really funny. And then next is the acting and production quality. I put this in the pros, but they're decent. They're nothing incredible by any means. They're just decent. They're better than average. With the production quality, I'd say, especially with monster flicks like this, a lot of them can have some really bad CGI. This tends to stay pretty good. It looks more like practical effects were used in a lot of parts. So that was definitely good. And with the acting, it does have a pretty good cast. I actually have it on my phone. I forgot to write it down. Crawl cast. So we have the first person of note is Barry Pepper, who was actually in Saving Private Ryan, my favorite movie of all time. He was the sniper in it. And I honestly didn't even recognize him in the movie until I looked up the cast. But the one I recognized was Kaya Scodelario, if I'm pronouncing that right. And she's a pretty good actress. I haven't seen her in too much. She was in Maze Runner, which I think was like her big mainstream role as far as I'm aware. And then before that, she was in a UK show called Skins, which if you haven't seen that, it's a really good show. So decent acting, decent production quality, but nothing that's going to rock the boat or really stand out. This definitely isn't a new version of Jaws. It's definitely not on that level at all. So moving on to some of the cons of this movie, the first one is that the characters make a ton of really dumb choices that just make you scratch your head and go, why the hell are you doing that? You know, there's like a option A and an option B. Clearly, option B is the one you would actually go for. They always choose option A. They never choose the good choice, ever. And it can be very annoying, very frustrating. It feels pretty clear that this movie could have been extremely short. It could have been a short film, to be honest. And they really just wanted to stretch it out as much as they could. Like a rubber band, just stretch it, and get it to that point where it's almost about to break. And it doesn't help it. Usually the characters end up right back where they were before they came up with their great plan and set off to, escape. And then they end up right back where they were. So it never works out well. You know it's not going to work out well because you see the good choice and you see the bad choice, and they go for the bad choice. You know how these movies work. And then the second con is just that the movie asks the audience to suspend their disbelief quite a lot. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the bad choices because, like I said, a lot of times they'll end up right back where they were. And it's like, they go off on this plan, and then the one thing that's like the worst thing that could happen ends up happening. And it's the randomest stuff. It's the weather. It's it's natural disasters, and it's all this stuff just happens ironically perfectly at the worst times possible for these characters. And, after the third or fourth one, you just don't buy it anymore. It's just not realistic at all. to be fair, this is a B flick, and I think you should go into this expecting a B flick. It is directed by Sam Raimi, who did, although he did the original Spider-Man movies, which were great, though they were my favorite, to be honest, even though Spider-Man 3, cringy, even as a kid, super cringy. If you've seen Spider-Man 3, you know which scene I'm talking about. But still, regardless, my favorite Spider-Man movies. And then also, he directed my favorite of all time B-movie, or B-movie series, I guess, in Evil Dead with Bruce Campbell. Amazing movies. If you haven't seen them and you enjoy B-movies or horror movies or both, or even comedies, to be honest, especially with Army of Darkness, honestly, check them out. Evil Dead is awesome. So out of those movies that I know he's directed, this is probably my least favorite, and that's reflected in my score. I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. That's a Joe Sr. You've heard of Average Joe. Well, this is just one step above Average Joe. Nothing too special, and I really gave it that point mainly because of the gator kills and how gruesome they are. If you're looking for some gruesome kills, this movie's got it. But that's really the only standout thing about this movie that makes it, you know, an individual and stand out from the crowd of all these other horror flicks, all these other creature films. And so yeah, that's really what bumped it up to a 6 out of 10. It's not a great movie. To be honest, it shouldn't have probably been in theaters. It blows my mind that it was in theaters. And it is, I would say it's a good movie to just turn off your brain and watch, maybe in like the background. Maybe you're doing something on your computer, or maybe you're playing Nintendo Switch or something, and you just want a movie in the background, or you know, people are working from home. Maybe you're working from home, you want a movie in the background. This is probably a good movie to put in the background and just look up whenever a gator kill is about to happen. Other than that, you can just tune out and go back to whatever you were doing. But yeah, so I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Not bad. It's above average, but just barely. Like, really just barely. This is probably the lowest 6 out of 10 I would give. Very close to a 5 out of 10 for me. With all that being said, though, go ahead, do me a favor. Smack that like button. Hit subscribe. Ding the notification bell if you want to be notified of when my videos come out, as soon as they come out. And I'll see you guys next week on Flix Friyay.